My twin brother went missing. Before he went missing, he went to a remote village. Half a year had passed and I still hadn't heard from him. So I decided to go and see for myself. Even though he was a serial killer, I had promised my mother that I would take good care of him. But I didn't expect that this search trip would be so brutal. Perhaps I shouldn't have come here in the first place. Hello, I'm the village chief here, Huruan. The woman in front of me smiled and stretched out her hand. She had a very beautiful face. Willow leaf eyebrows, seductive fox eyes, a delicate nose, and a full chin. Together with her waterfall-like black hair and graceful figure, she truly made me feel pity and moved. Such a beauty, no wonder my brother couldn't help but be moved. I suddenly felt uneasy. My name is Gu Yi, a genetics doctor. Since I was a child, I had a high IQ and was praised as a genius. After graduating as a doctor, thanks to my SCI theses, I successfully entered the top hospital in the country, and even became the youngest chief physician in the hospital. I have a twin brother named Gu Lang. He is also very intelligent, but his personality has been very extreme since he was a child. At the age of 8, after my parents divorced, I followed my father, he followed my mother, and we lost contact from then on. It was not until 5 years ago that my mother passed away from a serious illness, and in order to take care of each other, my younger brother and I started to contact each other again. I was busy with work, leaving early and coming home late every day, and still had to research my academic thesis, so I neglected him and didn't pay attention to him. When I discovered that he was a serial rapist, and had raped more than a dozen women, it was too late. I advised him to turn himself in, but he said he was tied up. After that, he ran away and was put on the police's wanted list. Half a year ago, it contacted me, saying it was in a small village in the mountains. The village was isolated from the outside world, very safe, and it wanted to stay here for the rest of its life. Although I thought he should be severely punished by law, he was my younger brother after all, so I couldn't bear to report him to the police. Many days passed, and I didn't hear any news about him. So I decided to go see for myself. My intention was still to hope that he would confess and bravely face the crimes he had committed. But I didn't expect that this village would be the same village as that year. 3 years ago, I presented my latest discoveries in genetics at a conference and received warm applause from the audience. After the conference, a girl took the initiative to talk to me. Her name was Hulan. She told me something that I couldn't imagine. For some reason, most of the men in her village were born weak and had difficulty living to adulthood. Her relative's illness had recently become more serious, and it was extremely dangerous. She asked me if I wanted to go back to the village with her to see. My first reaction was that this person was joking. If I was really seriously ill, I should have taken her to the doctor immediately, not asked the doctor to come home. I thought I had met a scammer, but then she showed me a bunch of photos and videos. These documents didn't look like they were photoshopped. I gradually realized that what she said was true. Their village really had some things that science couldn't explain. And coincidentally, I've been doing research on this recently. So I decided to go back to the village with her. We chatted all night. I prepared a lot of materials, eagerly waiting for the next day to go back to the village with her. But unexpectedly, she didn't show up. Not only that, she also texted me, saying that she had lied to me before, that she had gotten all the materials from the internet. Then she blocked me. At that time, I didn't know the exact address of their village, so I couldn't go there alone. Until today, I relied on the information my younger brother left behind before, and after many hardships, I finally found this place. The big locust tree at the village gate, and the few beautiful women who looked like monsters that I met on the way, also helped me confirm this village was the hometown that Hulan mentioned 3 years ago. I began to feel uneasy. Little brother. What did he come here for? Later, when I read the news, the reason why Hulan suddenly disappeared was because he was harmed. He ran to the victim's hometown. It was definitely not because he wanted to escape the police. In the end, what did he want to do? Hearing me mention Hulan, a trace of sadness appeared in Huruan's beautiful eyes. It seemed that she also knew that Hulan had been cheated. Now that you mention it, it was all my fault. If Gu Lang hadn't come to find me that day, he wouldn't have met Hulan, and she wouldn't have had to cheat. It's just a pity that at that time I didn't know about the bad things my younger brother had done. I also felt regretful for having missed such a strange clinical case that Hulan had mentioned. But I didn't expect that somehow I would have been able to come to this village. After introducing myself, I took out my medical certificate, and the beautiful young village chief in front of me was extremely excited. She cleaned up an empty room in her ancestral home for me to stay in, then took me to her house for a sumptuous meal. Her mother and daughter were also very beautiful. Adults couldn't tell her real age at all. The child was only 5 years old but already appeared smart and clever. This village is truly magical. I was extremely excited, even more so than my concern for my younger brother. After all, he was a criminal with a terrible crime, and I studied medicine to cure and save people. After dinner, Huruan's mother warmly invited me to sit down and have a cup of tea, but I politely declined. I just wanted to go back quickly and continue my research. While I was busy until midnight, Huruan suddenly walked in. Unlike the tight cheongsam she wore during the day, she was now wearing only a short nightgown. It seemed like she had just taken a shower. Her hair was wet behind her, exuding a gentle, alluring beauty. "Dr. Gu, I made some soup for you, drink it while it's still hot." "Thank you, I'm sorry for troubling you. We're the ones who caused you trouble. If you can think of a way to save our village, then you'll be the great benefactor of our Hu clan." As she spoke, she put down the tray and sat down next to me very naturally. A gentle scent wafted in the air. It was unclear whether it was intentional or unintentional, but the distance between us was very close. Her bare skin was as white as snow, pressed against my legs, swaying slightly, making it impossible for me to concentrate. I had to quietly move to the side to keep my distance from her. Fortunately, she didn't make any more moves, only smiling and reminding me, "After you're done working, go to bed early and remember to drink soup." After breakfast the next morning, Huruan took the initiative to take me out for a tour. This suggestion was exactly what I wanted. Their village was magical. Maybe it was due to genetics or the surrounding environment. For example, there were some rare elements around, or it had to do with their normal eating habits. We walked around the village. It was midsummer. Most of the workers were women. Occasionally there were men, but they were just a few years old kids playing in the water and catching fish by the stream. At first glance, it looked like a normal village. Except for the very beautiful women, there was nothing strange about it. After walking around, we came to the hot springs behind the mountain. It was so hot, but there were still people bathing there. When the girls saw me, they were all happy, enthusiastically inviting me to go into the water with them. Huruan smiled and introduced, saying that the spring water here was very magical. It could cure all kinds of diseases. I have studied medicine for many years. Of course I do not believe this. However, hot spring therapy is very useful in treating skin diseases. Perhaps this is the reason why women in Ho village have beautiful skin. But why are men's health weak? After the girls finished bathing, they left. In a flash, only Hun Nguyen and I were left. First, she took off her clothes and went into the water, then pulled me down. Under the water, she once again accidentally approached me. Being cornered, I had to quickly climb up the bank. I wonder if my younger brother had experienced this before? I can't help but sigh. Hu village is really a good place. I have suffered from insomnia for a long time due to the heavy pressure of work. Although I usually do physical therapy in Chinese medicine, I can't go to sleep until 4 or 5 in the morning. But since coming here, my sleep quality has improved a lot. Every night when I sleep, I always smell a refreshing fragrance, which makes me feel relaxed unconsciously. Tonight, I just finished the bowl of soup that Hu Ruan cooked and was organizing my thesis. Suddenly, I heard a faint sound coming from outside the door. I opened the door and saw a snow-white fox standing in front of the door. Hu Ruan. I shouted to the next room, but no one answered. She was here just now. Could it be that she has gone out? After hearing my voice, the fox in front of me suddenly moved. Elegantly walked across the long hallway and went to the break room next door. The day I came here, Hu Ruoyan said it was a storage room, so I didn't go there. I unconsciously followed it behind and continued walking inside. There was a small door in the storage room. When I passed through the door and went down, I would see a deep cellar. In the damp and cool cellar, jars of pickles were stacked on top of each other, and all kinds of fruits and vegetables were around. There was also a large bed. The fox that led me here was gnawing on a dried chicken leg in the corner. I laughed, and as I was about to leave, I suddenly stepped on something under my feet. I lowered my head, and when I saw clearly what was on the ground, my breathing suddenly became faster. This was my little brother's bracelet, something he was always with. When I returned to my room, I couldn't sleep anymore. Could it be that something had really happened to my little brother? At this moment, I suddenly regretted my impulsiveness. If someone as powerful as him really got into trouble, this place must be very dangerous. However, I didn't dare call the police. Once the police were called, he would definitely die for his crimes. While he was tossing and turning, footsteps came from the door. It seemed like Hu Ruoyan had returned. I quickly closed my eyes and pretended to be asleep. Unexpectedly, she opened the door and rushed in, calmly lying down beside me. The familiar scent appeared again, exactly the same scent I had smelled in my sleep for the past few nights. Did she sneak into my room like this every night and hug me to sleep? Why did she do this? I had been passionate about medicine since I was young, had never been in love, and had never had such close contact with the opposite sex. When my whole body was stiff and I didn't know what to do, she suddenly leaned closer to me and gently blew into my ear. My whole body couldn't help but tremble, not knowing if my ears were red. Just as I was considering whether to push her away, I suddenly heard her smile lightly. This laughter was like a cunning hunter teasing its prey that had entered the cage, a little coquettish, but also a little arrogant. Soon, my eyelids became heavier and heavier. Just as I was about to fall asleep, I seemed to hear her whispering in my ear. "Dr. Gu, what are you doing in our village? Looking for your younger brother? If you're a little more honest, I might tell you where he is." The next day when I woke up, I immediately turned over my pillow. Sure enough, the bracelet I had hastily hidden under my pillow last night had disappeared. I took a careful sniff, but I couldn't smell the fragrance from last night in the room at all. Could it be that everything that happened last night was because I was too worried about my brother that I had hallucinated? After breakfast, Hu Ruoyan and I went into the dense forest near the village. According to her, she had found a cave nearby before. The cave was very deep, and there were some strange characters and patterns carved on the stone walls that she didn't know. She felt that these things might be related to the origin and secrets of the village, so she wanted to take me to see it. The old forest was dense, with tangled vines. The deeper we went, the narrower the path became, and the chirping of birds echoed everywhere. Although the scenery was beautiful, unfortunately, we wandered around the mountain for almost the entire day but still couldn't find the cave she mentioned. We decided to go back first. Tonight we'll call more people to help. The way back is still difficult, we just passed a small stream. When resting on the bank, suddenly two black shadows pounced on us. Careful! I instinctively protected Hunwayan behind me. Looking up, we saw two wild boars half the size of humans glaring at us fiercely. This is bad. Run! Huruan's expression changed, and he hurriedly pulled me away. Behind him, the wild boar let out a low growl, also fiercely chasing after us. After running for who knows how long, we gradually became exhausted. Continuing like this was not the way. I bit my lip, and said to Huruan, continuing like this is too dangerous, I will lure them later, you run first. What about you? No, we have to go together. She shook her head and grabbed my sleeve. Just leave it to fate. If something really happened to my brother, then I would go with him. After all, this was my life. After Hurua left, I realized that I had been too naive. The beasts in the mountains were much more ferocious than the beasts kept in the city. They threw me down easily, and when their claws were about to pierce my chest, suddenly, from afar, there was a strange sound. That sound, it seemed like someone was blowing something. When the sound rang out, the two wild boars slowly put me down, reluctantly turning around and leaving. After a long while, Huruan appeared in front of me. Behind her was a group of people, all holding hoes, kitchen knives, and other weapons. It turned out that she had come back to find reinforcements. My leg was sprained, and there were a few scratches on my body. After they carried me back, Huruan personally applied medicine to me. I vaguely felt that there was something different about her. But exactly where, I couldn't say. It wasn't until we were about to go to bed that she took the initiative to mention Gulang. Are you looking for your younger brother? I sighed, she really knew. That's right. At this point, there was nothing left to hide. Dr. Gu, you're different from the men I've met before. I didn't expect you to risk your life to save me today, thank you. I shook my head, I am a doctor. A doctor's duty is to save people. Don't say it's you, if it was someone else, I wouldn't turn a blind eye. Hearing this, Hunwayan's tears suddenly fell. She hesitated for a moment, then took out her brother's bracelet from her pocket. Are you looking for this? My expression changed, why is it here? Where is my brother? It turned out that last night was not a dream. She had secretly taken the bracelet away. He died. He died? He died. I saved him, but he wanted to kill me, and in the end, my mother and Jiogu found out. Jiogu is Hulan's mother. She took him away, and then killed him. Hearing this, it was like a thunderbolt. I was both terrified by her honesty and heartbroken that my brother had really died. I remembered when we were young, our cat died, and I was heartbroken all night. As my brother, he was by my side, telling me, brother, there's no more kitten, you still have me, I will always be by your side. Unexpectedly, he was gone too. From now on, I no longer had any relatives. Dr. Gu, do you want to denounce us? Jiogu is the murderer, and I am an accomplice. You came to save our village, and today you even saved me. I don't want to lie to you. If one day you find out the cause of Gulang's death, you might hate us. If that's the case, I might as well tell you now. As for this bracelet, I can't give it back to you. Do you know what this is? Each and every pearl on this was made by Gulang using the victim's skull. This is evidence of his crime. I suddenly realized. No wonder he had treasured this necklace so much before. He even lied to me that it was his mother's relic. I didn't expect. Even though I knew he was a terrible criminal, I never expected him to be so perverted and cruel. After thinking about it all night, I decided to give up on calling the police. Although I hated Hu Jiogu for killing my brother, I understood her. My brother really deserved to die. The next morning, I told Huruan my decision. She breathed a sigh of relief. Her eyes were also filled with gratitude as she looked at me. Thank you, Dr. Gu. I hope we can keep this a secret together. Okay. After making the agreement, I asked her, before he died, did he say anything about me? Did he leave any last words? If it still has any wishes, I hope I can help it fulfill them. No, he kept saying he was Gu Yi. The two of them looked very similar, both had a scar on their eyebrows. It wasn't until I saw you that I realized we were both deceived by him. After saying that, Huruan led me to an unmarked grave on the mountain. She said that her younger brother's body was buried here. If I wanted to pay respects to him in the future, I could come here. The entire Hu village would welcome me at any time. Up to now, the purpose of my trip had been achieved. I had confirmed that my younger brother was dead, and I also knew who the murderer was. Now there was only one last step, which was to collect blood samples from the entire village and bring them back for testing. There was a lack of medical equipment here, and the conditions were limited, so I could only bring them back to the lab so I could analyze them more thoroughly. Huruan agreed. The next day, she summoned the entire village to the ancestral house. She told them to line up one by one to have their blood tested. I looked at the list that Hon Nguyen gave me. There were 92 people in total. Except for some pregnant women, the rest were children as young as 5 years old to people over 100 years old. There were less than 10 men among them. This village was truly worth studying. After I finished drawing blood, I said,
"Goodbye,"
to them. Huruan personally drove me to the village gate. There, I had long ago contacted a professional refrigerated truck to transport it. After putting the blood sample in the car, Huruan reluctantly asked me, "Dr. Gu, are you coming back?" Was she worried that I would never come back? I solemnly promised her, yes, we will meet again soon. I would return to Hu village to save them. That night, after arranging the sample, I secretly returned to Hu village. Such a large village had only a few street lights and no other light. I knew that they were still sleeping. After drawing blood in the morning, I applied a deep anesthetic to the alcohol-soaked cotton I used to stop their bleeding. Huruan, she lied to me. The lone grave she showed me, the surrounding grass and trees were very lush, and there was also the color of the stone tablet. It was clearly an ancient grave. My younger brother wasn't there. Perhaps he was still alive and waiting for me to save him. Their village had a large population and was strong. I really had no other choice. I went to Hu Lan's house first. A few days ago, Huruan had told me the location. Pushing the door open and entering, the room was pitch black. I turned on the lights and searched from room to room. In the kitchen, bedroom, or balcony, there was no trace of my brother. In my despair, I remembered the ancestral home I had stayed in before. I always felt that the basement was not simple. If that night was not a dream, I would have picked up the bracelet there. Maybe there would be other clues. I first checked a bit, confirmed that Huruan was still unconscious, and quickly took off the bracelet on her hand. Then I went down to the basement. The basement was still the same as what I saw that day, but I always felt that something was wrong. I turned off the lights, took out the luminol reagent, and dropped it on the wooden floor. Very quickly, a blue fluorescent light appeared on the originally gray wooden board. It seemed that there had been a lot of blood here and it had been cleaned up by me. My little brother, he must be dead. I felt uncomfortable and was about to stand up and leave when suddenly a gentle voice came from behind. "Isn't it beautiful?" I turned around in fear and saw Huruan standing at the door. She was holding a big black dog, standing in the darkness at the top of the stairs, quietly looking at me. Looking at her appearance, my scalp suddenly went numb. I asked unconsciously, when did you wake up? Huruan smiled softly. When she sent me off this morning, she was clearly still very affectionate. At this moment, she seemed like a different person, making me suddenly feel uneasy. Me? I wasn't sleeping. How could I wake up? How could this be? It's obvious that we were drugged, right? Unfortunately, I've been friends with poisonous insects since I was young, and I'm also well versed in ancient magic. Your medicine has absolutely no effect on me. I frowned, feeling a little uneasy. But fortunately, she was alone, plus a dog. She had no ability to fight me. If it wasn't necessary, I really didn't want to fight her. I'm a doctor. Doctors are born to save people, not to torture people. Thinking of this, I calmed down a bit, and gently said to Huruoyan, I just want to find my brother. We are siblings. I can't bear to let him die here. Can't bear to? But he died a long time ago. She smiled slightly, revealing a puzzled expression, then lowered her head to look at the black dog. If you don't believe me, ask him. For a moment, my whole body turned cold. What do you mean? Dr. Gu, you must have guessed it. The way your brother tortured those women, Gu tortured me the same way. We all learned such cruel methods from him. After saying that, she pulled the strings in me. Immediately, the black dog barked at me frantically. The barking made my scalp tingle. I took a deep breath and carefully negotiated with her. If it's dead, then I'll go. Sorry for drugging everyone. They'll wake up tomorrow morning. That drug isn't harmful to the body. After saying that, I took a step forward, intending to leave her. Unexpectedly, as soon as I lifted my foot, Huruoyan gently clapped her hand. Next, I felt a sharp pain in my neck, as if I had been bitten by something. Then, everything went dark. I don't know how much time passed, but when I woke up, I was tied up in the open space in the middle of the village. Rows of tables were arranged right in front of me, surrounding me. The villagers who had been drugged by me should have been fast asleep by now, but they were all here. They all looked at me with fierce eyes. Seeing that I was awake, Huruan leisurely said, Dr. Gu, at this point, you still won't confess? Confess what? I looked at my two bodies tied behind the chair, starting to get a little angry. A few days ago, Huruan brought me here to cool off. I was still their guest. But at this moment, I was already a prisoner. Huruan, I am a doctor, asked by Hulan to help you guys. Didn't you say that I am the great benefactor of your village? Is this how you treat your benefactor? Pausing for a moment, I added, that day on the mountain, I also saved you. That's right. Huruoyan nodded, smiling and said, although I forcibly chased the wild boar away, you did indeed save me. Therefore, I was going to let you go today. What a pity, what a pity. My Dr. Gu, you still don't intend to tell the truth until now? If that's the case, then let me speak for you. Huruoyan finished speaking, walked in front of me, took out my wallet from my pocket, took out my ID card and examined it carefully. Then he threw it at my feet. You are truly Gu Yi, a great doctor. He also has a twin brother named Gu Lang. When he was young, after his parents divorced, he left. Gu Lang followed his mother and stepfather. His stepfather had a bad temper and beat him every day until his whole body was covered in injuries. As for him, after his father passed away, he went to an orphanage and was adopted by a wealthy family. They supported him and helped him become an excellent doctor. But I guess he must have suffered some trauma at his adoptive parents' house. Because it was obvious that he didn't like women. Although he had hidden it very well these past few days, he really hated me touching him. Gu Lang hated his mother, because she chose to run away when her stepfather abused her, so he also hated all the women he considered promiscuous. As for him, what did he experience during his childhood? What did his adoptive parents do to him? Shut up. Shut up. It had been years since anyone had mentioned those two beasts. I was instantly driven mad. Those terrifying nights, the scenes that were buried deep in my memory, suddenly appeared again. Hu Ruoyan, this hateful woman, I really want to kill her now. Seeing my appearance, she smiled smugly. She raised her eyebrows. Oh, it seems that I guessed correctly. Dr. Gu, you are actually 100 times smarter than your brother. You overcame all the temptations I used on him. You resisted contact with me and the women in the village. You obediently took the medicine I prepared for you every night. I took you up the mountain, and you didn't hesitate. We encountered a wild boar, and you risked your life to block me. Do you know? Among the men who came to our village, you were the first to be able to leave. You were clearly gone, so why did you come back? That's right, why? Gu Yi, you are so stupid. I laughed bitterly, because I can't leave Gu Lang behind, he is my younger brother after all. Really? I'm afraid it's more than that. Hu Ruan shook his head and continued, you came here to confirm that he really died. And you need the people in our village to help you conduct human experiments. What nonsense are you talking about? I shook my head, frowning and denying, I'm a doctor, how can I conduct human experiments? Why not? After all, you experimented on Hu Lan 3 years ago, right? I've read all of your published papers, and there was a case involving Hu Lan. She had actually discovered it. This was the only flaw in my perfect crime. I closed my eyes in despair. I didn't know what Hu Ruan had done, but when I disobeyed, my whole body ached terribly. It seemed like something was running wild in my veins. I had no choice but to tell my story. Ever since I was little, I knew I was different from other kids. When the bugs were still playing in the mud, I started studying animals. On my 4th birthday, my mother gave me and my younger brother a kitten. She hoped that this cat could accompany us on our journey to adulthood. My younger brother loved the cat very much, and held it in his arms every day. But I felt that at night it wouldn't sleep, and kept running back and forth, which was very annoying. I really wanted to see what it would be like when it died. So I dissected the cat. My mother found out that day. She scolded me, and from then on, her eyes always looked at me with fear. But I didn't care about that, I began to obsess over dissecting animal corpses. Mice, birds, and stray dogs on the roadside were all my research subjects. When I was 8 years old, my parents divorced and I followed my gambling-addicted father. After taking me here and there, he was soon driven to suicide by loan sharks. Because I couldn't contact my mother, I went to an orphanage. Later, I was adopted by a wealthy family. At first, I restrained myself, trying to please them. Until I found out that my adoptive father was a pervert. His villa had a huge basement, and I could often hear children screaming from inside. Until one day, he took me in with him. From that night on, my nightmare began. Many years later, when I could protect myself, the first thing I did was call the police. After they passed away, I inherited a huge fortune and started living alone. Until I reconnected with my younger brother. I discovered that it had not been easy for him in the past few years. He had hurt my mother. He had also hurt many women who had abandoned their husbands and children like my mother. Meeting Hu Lan was an accident. I was researching a genetic problem, and what she described was unbelievable, but it made me crazy with joy. I pretended to agree to follow her back to the village, but secretly imprisoned her to serve my research. After all, she was the best research specimen, why would I go to such a faraway place with her? I had tried all the experiments on white mice on her. Until that day, Gu Lang came to my villa and discovered my secret. When he arrived, Hu Lan was already dead. So, it handled the corpse with me. I was familiar with the structure of the human body, how to dismember it, and how to make a person disappear from the world. It was really easy. From then on, we became each other's best partners. It started to imitate my personality and actions. Outside, it used my handsome appearance and money to attract victims. After I finished my experiments on them, it would rape them. I was very vigilant and had never met my younger brother outside. All the crime scenes left no trace of me. Until half a year ago, Gu Lang was accidentally discovered by the police. I originally wanted to kill it, but it had already escaped. It was okay to escape, it was okay to die, but it couldn't live. It was just that I didn't expect it to actually find this place. Even if it did, it wanted to drag me along. I had known this would happen. I really shouldn't have come here. My caution and suspicion had harmed me. After I finished speaking, many people started crying. Especially Hu Lan's mother. She rushed over to punch and kick me. "You pervert! You scum! You're worse than a pig or a dog. My daughter trusted you so much, and even praised you for being such a virtuous doctor. And yet you did this to her, why?" She grabbed my collar, wanting an answer. What a stupid woman! What does she know? Even though my glasses had been knocked off, I still held my head high. I argued loudly with them. Where did I go wrong? The development of medicine is based on fresh blood and white bones. Humans, in order to show their nobility, use animals for experiments. But animals also have lives. All living beings are equal. What makes humans think they are superior? After I finished speaking, Hu Rua, who had been silent all this time, continued, "That's right, what's the difference between humans and animals?" I felt very happy. I couldn't help but laugh and say, "You agree with my point of view, right?" "I knew it. You're different from them. Let me go. I already have Hu Lan's research data, plus your data. Soon, give me 5 more years, no, 3 years, just 3 years, I can decode the secrets of your village." The crowd suddenly fell silent. The woman who was still angry and said she wanted to do something to me suddenly looked at Hu Ruan worriedly. She asked cautiously, "Nguyen girl, do you really want to let him go?" Lan Lan's grudge. After she finished speaking, she fell silent and didn't mention it again. I waited anxiously, only to see Hu Ruan suddenly smile, looking at everyone and asking, "What do you think? Should I kill him to avenge Hu Lan, or let him go, give him a chance to save the village?" They discussed this issue for a long time. Some people thought that they should kill me to avenge Hu Lan. Some even said, "For the village, keep me." After the discussion, they gave this power to Hu Nguyen. This village was really different from the outside. There were no police here, no laws. The village chief was the judge. So, this smart and terrifying woman once again held the power of life and death over me. I turned my gaze towards her, bowed down, and begged for mercy. "Hu Ruan, I saved you, I can still save your village, let me go." I knew Hu Ruan wouldn't hurt me. She was the village chief, of course she had to care about the future of the village. Their village had too many secrets, now I had also revealed my secret. I was the most suitable person to be chosen. In the future, we would be tied together. I saved them, they depended on me. Thinking of this, I couldn't help but smile. I waited for Hu Ruan to speak, waiting for her to release me. Sure enough, she separated from the crowd, walked towards me, and began to untie me. Hu Lan's mother looked at me with red eyes. Unfortunately, she couldn't stop me. I loosened my long-tied wrists, and asked Hu Ruan, "I'm going back to continue my research, do you want to come with me?" "No. She shook her head, smiling slightly. Dr. Gu, I won't go, and you can't go either. What did she mean? I was about to open my mouth when I heard her suddenly say to everyone, I really want to let him go, our Hu village also needs him. But, I can't. I promised my younger brother, promised Gu, that I would avenge Hulan. One life of Hulan, or more than 100 lives of our village, which is more important? In my opinion, they are all the same. Dr. Gu was right, all living beings are equal. Therefore, if you give a life, you pay with your life. No matter who he is, no matter what his status is, no matter what price he has to pay. Crazy. This woman, she is gone. I looked at her dumbfounded. She is not human, she is crazy. Immediately after, this crazy person pushed me in front of Hulan's mother. Gu, we cannot breed with this guy, his genes are not good. I will leave him to you, you can do whatever you want. I was taken to Hulan's house by the crowd. These women looked fragile and weak, but they were very strong. Tonight, I finally knew what happened to my younger brother before he died. I regretted it again. I shouldn't have come here. Curiosity killed the kitten, and it also killed me. Before I died, I met Hu Ruoyan again. She was still wearing the same blue cheongsam from the first time we met, her smile gentle and heart-fluttering. No man could resist her charm. But I knew how deceitful and cruel a woman she was. Looking at Hu Gu silently sharpening her knife in the yard, I knew I was completely sharp. So, I finally asked the question that had been bothering me for the past few days. Except for the time I drugged you, how did you know about the other things? Obviously, I had hidden it very well. I had escaped her beauty trap and bitterness trap. I was a perfect genius. I didn't understand. Hu Ruoyan smiled. A sly smile like a fox. She looked at me, as if looking at a struggling prey. Dr. Gu, have you read about criminal psychology? After Hulan went missing, I started researching it. After Gu Lang died, I realized I had made 2 mistakes. First, he really didn't know Hulan. How could a serial killer not remember his own work? Unless, that work wasn't his. Second, Gu Lang chose his victims very meticulously. He felt that his childhood tragedy was caused by his mother's affair and divorce from their father. Therefore, he always seduced women who were married or had boyfriends. After deceiving them and making them fall in love, he mercilessly killed them. For me, it was also a habit. This was the ritual of human trafficking that he followed. For serial human traffickers, there were many examples at home and abroad. They would never easily change their ways of committing crimes. As for Hulan, she would never love Gu Lang. Therefore, she did not meet Gu Lang's criteria for choosing prey. And you were the last person she mentioned before she disappeared. You were able to find this place, so the feelings between the two of you must have been very deep. But from any angle, you were very hateful. You could be an accomplice, or you could be the mastermind. Indeed, she was frighteningly smart. At this moment, I truly regretted it. I shouldn't have experimented with Hulan, I should have followed her back to the village. Hu Ruoyan was the most suitable subject for the experiment. Unfortunately, it was too late. Hu Gu had finished sharpening her knife and was walking towards me step by step. Before I died, I said my last words. Do you know what? The police have suspected me for a long time. In order to find Gu Lang, they have been following me. I guess they will come soon. As soon as I finished speaking, the hunting dog in the yard suddenly barked loudly. Hu Ruoyan's face also turned pale. The woman who killed us brothers, was she really so lucky every time? I didn't believe it. I would go down there and watch this drama continue. End.